Hello and happy new year, and welcome to the show because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right, aka the Hangout stream, aka the Chill stream, baby. All fired up and having some fun for January 2nd, 2023, and brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com. That's right. Or you can simply Google this name and you can find out. We have quite a show for you guys tonight. So let me just give you down, let me brief you in on what's going on. I will be reading an article that offers some insights in regard to the difference between traditional versus toxic masculinity. That could be spicy and interesting if you're right male characters. Of course, I will be addressing your comments in proper fashion. And I do have some book deals, some New Year's book deals to share with y'all. And speaking of which, no hot topic this week. What I'm going to be doing instead is I'm going to be actually wrapping up the show tonight, and I'm going to be speaking of. I'm going to be taking a look back at all the highlights from the Monday Night Live show from 2022. So that should be interesting. But first things first. First things first. I like to take this time to slide right inside my first segment of the night where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. Let's check it out. First up tonight, we have from Carrie Clane. This is a Christmas book. So for those of you who are still in the Festivus spirit, we have full book free to download. It says every Friday from now until Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, you miss out on that deal. However, this is Christmas in Killarney, a holiday novella by Carrie Clane. Let's check this one out, see what it's all about. If you guys in the chat, you go ahead, say hello so I know where you're at. No need to be shy. I just like to know who took the time to stop by. All right, there's the cover. And here is the blurb. It says, when spoiled pop star Cade cancels her world tour because of a potentially career-ending scandal, she's forced to hide from the international press in a small, isolated cottage deep in the heart of Ireland. With the help of the locals and the magic of an Irish Christmas, Cade manages to reconnect with her true self, but will she find love in the place she least expected? Very sounds very Hallmark-esque. 123 pages, holiday fiction. What do we have here? Who is this? Hey now, what's going on? How are you tonight, sir? Did you have a happy New Year's? Did you hit that? Were you hitting the rum? Remember last week you said something about you enjoy rum. However, I talked about I talked about making drinks, and I said what for whatever reason I said White Russians. And White Russians aren't made with rum. I realized that after the fact. I'm like, what am I talking about? White Russians are made with vodka. But nevertheless, moving right along. Now, these next 3 books actually come from the Discord server. You guys interested? The link to the Discord server is always in the description down below. For those of you, if you're a creator, you're a writer, you're an artist, go ahead, do yourself a favor. Go ahead, click that link. You can join the Discord server where that's the easiest, basically that's the easiest way to get your work featured here on the show. So let's see. Next up, we have, let me, this. Of course, these are all books that are suggested to me by the publishers themselves, whether they be self-published or this comes from an indie label or a small press company. This next book is Order of the Spirits, Fragments by, I'm going to try this name, see if I can get it on first take, Vladimir Radojković. If he sees this stream, you can let me know if I pronounced it properly. I want to say I was pretty close. I'm pretty confident about that I was pretty close on that one. All right, I like that cover. That's pretty, that cover looks pretty badass, I have to say. All right, here's the blurb. Be vigilant, accept sacrifice, endure. Warriors of the ordeal take their vows seriously, and whether they're in a crime-ridden city, a distant past, or a different realm altogether, their job is to battle deadly creatures and hunt down ancient monsters. If they fail, Earth is surrendered to darkness, and their loved ones would be the first to die. In this action-packed fantasy collection of 6 intertwined stories, meet a grim vigilante, a charismatic demon slayer, and a pair of legendary monster hunters as they fight for the order and their personal beliefs. But what happens when those beliefs go against the order's ways? Nice. Sounds like there's a little bit of a political intrigue there, wrapped up with a moral dilemma. 356 pages. Superhero science fiction, superhero fantasy adventure. Very nice. I have added that one to the TBR. Some heavy hitters tonight, I have to say. All right, next up. You might have heard of this one before because she had the deal. She was part of the December Smash Words end of the year deal. And this, of course, is Let There Be Fire, lyrical series, book 1 by R.A. Morley. Yes. All right, let there be fire. This is, here's the blurb: revenge, rescue, redemption. 3 R's Calatus Lear never thought he'd play a part in. After a narrow escape from an ill fate, with the help of Avi, a half-blood, Cal swears to even the score. He never expected his oath to take him across the continent of Mernig, far from everything he knows, though not far from everyone he knows. As a dark elf caught between warring gods, Cal finds this journey to be far more than he bargained for, and the choices only get harder with time. 332 pages. Humorous fantasy. Dragons and mythical creatures. You have a lot of very specific type of categories on Amazon, huh? This one falls under specifically dragons and mythical creatures. Okay. This next one. Hear that? Hold on a second. I think I have a visitor. Oh, wow. What a coincidence. RB, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, Jonathan. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I was just about to talk about your book. What a coincidence this is that you would be here at the door, ready to come on the stream as we talk
Of
about,
course.
yes, life on a blue horse, finding faith, hope, and purpose in a life on the spectrum. And of course, this is your first book.
It is.
All right. Let me get you set up here.
All right.
All right. If you would, I guess, what better way to find out what this book is all about than to hear it from the horse's mouth, as far as that goes.
Quite.
So,
Yeah. I mean, why not, right? So the story of the blue horse actually started when I was in kindergarten. My dad came to our class one day, and everybody else had drawn a brown horse or a black horse or spotted horses. There was one blue horse, and guess who it belonged to? And so ever since then, we've always known I was a little different. Um, and so when I learned that I was autistic, it actually I was diagnosed really young, and then re-diagnosed, I guess, about 2 years ago. And I started putting pieces together and realizing some of the events in my life and some of the things that I had done finally started to make sense. And so I wrote this book to give hope to people that maybe had been through abuse like I had, or had been kind of treated as an outcast like I had, and maybe you're autistic, maybe you're not. But either way, there are things in this book that I hope everybody can relate to. The blurb says, "Have you ever felt like everyone around you has it all figured out, and your life is a complete mess by comparison? Have you ever felt like you were just too different, too broken, or that your life was a waste? Even worse, have you ever felt like you were such a mess that you had to clean yourself up before you came to God? I felt this way a lot in my life. I was abused, neglected, told I was worthless. made to feel like I had nothing to offer anyone, including God, and I still feel like I'm too much for people at times. Being autistic, it's always been a struggle for me to fit in. While this book just isn't just about autism, there are things that I've discovered about myself that I pray can help you with whatever you've been through or are going through.
Very nice. So very, very intimate. A very intimate piece. There's a big piece of you put into this work. Is definitely what I'm gathering here.
Yes.
Does it go into now? Does this work? Does it go into quite a bit of detail in terms of specific events in your life, or is it
There
kind of just
are
more of a general?
no, there are very specific events recorded. There are some general things that happened, and I will say a lot of this book deals with, especially the first few chapters, deals with a lot of my abuse. So there is some tragedy there, but there is also some stories that I hope are funny. Um, some of the things that have happened to me in my life that even were uh, places that I learned lessons were really kind of hilarious. But there's a lot of hope in this story, and you know, my hope is that other people can see that, and you know, if somebody who's been through some of the things that I've been through, and well, for lack of better terms, still be here, um, and able to tell this story, then I pray that other people can find hope in it. So the point is, regardless of what tragedy you face or what you've been through, there is still a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not alone.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that, and definitely quite a compelling sell, sir. If I don't say so myself. So, uh, thank you. Now, if you would just stick around just for a moment here, because we actually have some more to talk about in terms of your work.
Okay.
I just want to wrap this up for you guys here watching, or if you're watching this on the replay. Um, uh, Make sure you tune in. Of course, this is just for fun, but if you tune in, you can check out the community tabs, and you can be sure you can cast your vote for which one out of those 4 books that you thought had the most text appeal. So, in other words, which one out of those 4 books that you thought you would be most likely to pick up. And of course, if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head over to my shorts tab, or you can check out the playlists, and you can open up some mystery packs. In each mystery pack, you will see a cover card which reveals a book that has been recognized, an independent book recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich Network. And it also includes a link in the description to an editorial written on that book by yours truly. Now, I just want to bring up, while I have you here, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I actually did receive an email about a new release from you. You're making a shift into fiction, and you actually have a fantasy book that has come out just
Uh,
last month. Would you like to
Actually,
talk about
just
that?
last week.
Yes. Yeah. Would you
Um,
like to say? Let me bring up the. Hold on. Let me do it. Let me do you justice here.
okay.
Yeah. Please go ahead. You can, if you want to explain a little bit about what kind of prompted this project.
So I've been writing for a long time, but I started making up a fantasy story as a bedtime story for my son. And it started out actually funny story. I started out writing um, a story about Harry Potter, and he was like, "We should put that on Amazon." I'm like, pretty sure there's some copyright laws about that. So he asked if we could write a story that we could put together, and so together we started working on this. Of course, it started out a whole lot smaller than it ended up being. But as somebody who grew up, was born in the 80s, grew up with Lord of the Rings, Narnia, Neverending Story, things like that, as some of my favorites. And so I put a lot of those influences into this story. So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, if you're a Narnia fan, if you're a Neverending Story fan, this is something I think you'd be interested in. It starts out with a boy in the real world who discovers a book in his parents' attic and ends up getting sucked into the world of this story that he's reading.
Now,
And
you say that. Now, is he literally sucked into the book?
He is literally sucked into the world of
Okay.
this book that he's reading.
Okay.
And anyway, he of course has no idea why he's there, how he got there, any of that. But he meets people along the way that kind of guide him and begin to point out who he actually is and explain to him kind of a little bit of his backstory. And then he has to basically make a decision on whether he will accept his destiny and who he really is and become that person in order to help save this world. And it is the
Like
first
the hero's
book
journey, if you will.
It is. And, I pray that the people reading it will understand it was written as a bedtime story for an 8-year-old.
So a middle
But
grade, so like a middle
it
grade
is. It
type of
is.
story. But that's
Yeah.
good. Kids need entertainment too,
They do. And
especially entertainment with good messaging. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like, I feel like we're in a time when we could really use more of that. I think well, the kids in general could use more of that.
Well, I
Maybe
wanted
all of
something
us
that
for
was a
that
little
matter.
more light. Yeah. I wanted something that was a little more lighthearted, especially to start out. But I'm about a third of the way into book 3. I'll do a shameless self plug. I'm releasing book 2. January 27th is my release date for it. It's called The Winter of Lost Souls. And it's book 2 of this series. And it kind of breaks our characters up a little bit. We learn a little bit more about who each of them are. We see them on their own now, kind of in some darker times. The story does have um, a little more development in each of the characters. They deal with some things that start to get a little heavier. And like I said, this is going to be the second of a 5-book series. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow these characters and develop them. There's actually one specific character that you meet briefly in book 1. I want to say it's like 5 or 6 chapters in, and he plays just a minor role. But he's a man that's covered in tattoos on his arms, and his tattoos tell a story, and it's a tragic story. And then
I like
he kind
what
of
you did with that. I think that's a cool idea.
yeah. So he kind of disappears in book 1. He comes into book 2 and will play a major role. So if you read book 1 and you're interested in his character, he doesn't have a name, but you learn who he is in book 2, and he will play a major role from book 2 forward into throughout the whole story.
Now,
So I'm
you
really
did
looking
say
forward
that
to
this is
fleshing it out.
now you did say this is targeted towards a younger audience. The length of the book is actually do
The
have it.
paperback's 106 pages.
Okay, yep, and okay,
Yeah.
and
The ebook's like 90, I think.
so like children's and categorized under children's like sword and sorcery adventure. But
Yeah.
but it does have you say that what are some of the maybe you want to share a little bit of the themes? Is there like some of the themes involved in this book?
So one of the things that I wanted to touch on is courage. Um, my son is very much a leader and has a lot of courage, but he's dealt with tragedy as well. He lost his father when he was 4.5, and so wanted to touch a little bit on that. Talk a little bit about courage in kind of overwhelming odds. Finding out your true identity, your true destiny, um, and being willing to face darkness and grow through it and come out the other side.
I dig it, man. I dig it. Well, RB, I thank you very much for coming on and choosing to show your face on camera and come on and talk about your books, man. I thank you very much.
Yeah, of
And
course.
before we go, I just wanted to say, do you have a website or something like so people can get in contact with you and maybe talk about your books and whatnot?
I do. The website is rbworleywrites.com. And I'll throw that up in the chat here in a minute as well for
Excellent.
anybody. I'm on Facebook as
Sorry about that.
well. My author page is RB Worley. I actually just started it like, I don't know, this weekend.
Oh, what was
And there
that?
is also,
What
do
was that?
what?
That what did you
Oh, I
just
just
start?
started I just started the Facebook page
Oh, okay, yeah.
for the books like this weekend. There's also one, the series is called the Aletheia Chronicles. And so there's a Facebook page for it as well. And I'm kind of updating. If you follow one, you'll see the other
Excellent.
a lot because I'm keeping them all, pretty well updated as I'm writing. But I am working hard at finishing book 2. And then we're going to try to get all 5 of the books finished by the end of the year.
Wow.
That's really the goal.
All right.
So yeah, book 2 and beyond will start to dig in a lot more to the backstory of the world and some of the characters in it. So I'm looking forward to fleshing that out and seeing what everybody thinks.
All right. Well, thanks, man. And
Yeah, of course.
hopefully, and maybe I can have you back on sometime. When your next books come out, when the next book in the series comes out, we can
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about it
looking
more.
forward to it.
Hey, take care, and wish you all the best, man.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a good one.
Bye. All right. I enjoyed that very much. All right. Let's see here. Now we'll talk a little bit more. I say if you guys are interested, in having your book mentioned on the stream, you can just the easiest way to do that is to join the Discord, or you can get in contact with me through your social medias. And now let's go into the next segment of tonight, where I kind of want to interact with you guys a little bit. Where let's see. All right. Oh yeah, actually, hold on. Let me Let me do this real quick. All right. Let's get into the, let's move right along now, and let's get into some comments. Yes. This next segment is for you guys, where I get in contact with you guys. You leave comments throughout the week. And then I have a new way of kind of going about doing comments. Basically, what I do is I let them collect throughout the week, and then we'll talk about them on stream in a little segment that I like to call Your Comments Matter. That's right. My comment section is not there to satisfy AI algorithms as much as my comment is there to provide me with an opportunity to engage with those of you who give my videos the time of day. Yes. Let's see what we have this week. I think there was quite a bit to get to. I think this is actually probably one of the busiest weeks that I've had in terms of comments. All right. All right, so we have this comes from Alice Lucinda Bronte, and this was left on last week's stream entitled "Ringing in the New," and then just says, in regard to that, Alice says, "We'll have to write a poem featuring a kitchen sink," and signs it Simon Warwick Beresford. Of course, for those of you who are not privy to this lore, Alice Lucinda Bronte is actually the alter ego, as far as I know. Alice Lucinda Bronte is the alter ego of Simon Warwick Beresford. Yes. So it's funny that they say that, because they actually turned around and they got in contact with me on Twitter and delivered and sent me a poem written about the kitchen sink, because the reason why it's kind of an inside joke. So like if you watch on last stream, I covered one of Simon's poetry books, and in the blurb it was about all these different monsters and entities and topics and stuff like that, and I was just kind of like listing them off. It was listing them off in the book description, and someone had commented the whole 9 yards, and I was like, yes, everything except the kitchen sink. So of course they had to chime in and create a poem about the kitchen sink. So I'm going to read that for you all right now, a little bonus reading, if you will. Let me see, is that cover the bottom? There we go. Okay, so this is from Simon Warwick's alter ego, Cadence Larissa Alice Beth Beresford. Say that 5 times fast, huh? Here's the poem entitled The Kitchen Sink. An outspoken feminist in a small town, so chauvinist, she was chained to a kitchen sink, literally, and left there to starve. Now her ghost haunts that abandoned shack, chained in place still. She will attack with plates thrown from a spectral stack that she stubbornly would not wash. Thanks for sharing that. Well, you know what they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make her drink. As far as that goes, that's what I call a stubborn nag. All right. Back to the comments here. Next up, this is Horus Blood Moon. Same stream. Yeah. Let's see. Quite a lengthy comment here. He says, "Hey, Jonathan, it's Christopher Magnus here. Thank you for taking the time to feature my novel on your stream tonight. As for the title and how it works itself into the story, you will have to read it to find out. But rest assured, it will be revealed and you will enjoy the story if you give it a chance." Yes, this was in regard to his sci-fi novel, The Information Superhighway. I believe that was the title of the book, but the book had more to do, but it was a revenge story. I remember that much. It was actually a revenge story. So I was like, I wonder how that ties in there. And to answer your earlier question, because I said his name, Magnus, sounds like a wizard name. It says, and to answer your earlier question, if I were an evil wizard, I wouldn't have to tell anyone. I feel it would be fairly obvious that I was one because I would not want to hide that fact. You would be overtly evil, is what he's saying. You would be the dastardly. Is that what you would be? Magnus, you would be the Chris, you would be the dastardly villain. I would like to do what you said about the cover of my next book. The issue I have is a lack of having the appropriate visual material that would match what my characters look like. I thoroughly enjoy the idea of having the images of the characters on the cover. Yeah, because I was making the comment that a lot of the sci-fi books, like the sci-fi genre that I've been seeing lately, they feature two things. Obviously it takes place in outer space, but it just has like a unique looking spaceship, and then the spaceship is heading towards a black hole. It's a spaceship heading towards a black hole, or it's heading towards a nebula, or a planet, or something like that. And I just made the suggestion, hey, what if your cover, you can keep the spaceship, keep the nebula, keep the black hole. More power to you as far as that goes. It's space, it takes place in space, makes sense. However, what if you were to superimpose your characters' faces on the cover as well? And I kind of took a risk being called a jerk or something like that for being a little bit critical of his cover, but he took it well. He actually took it really well, and he thanked me for the suggestion. Let's see. Oh, who do we have here? J.R. Carroll. Hey, what's up, dude? Welcome. And again, congratulations on your 1K. I know that was a big deal. All right, let's get back to these comments here. This also is from Chris. But this one, he actually commented on the poll, the text appeal poll. I wonder what book he voted for. He says, I have already bought and read the Intergalactic, that's what it was called, Intergalactic Information Superhighway. It is one of my favorite science fiction books, but I am biased as I wrote it. Of course. Oh, and we have Mr. Pei Veo stops by the channel. An author as well, another author. This is what I like, you guys. This is what I am enjoying. I've kind of started doing this whole thing in hopes that I was going to be able to connect with a lot more of you writers and authors out there. And it's starting to come to fruition, I have to say. More on that later on tonight when I do my 2022 review. But this was on the one of our hot topics, the art, in more specifically, the conversation on art and artificial intelligence. This was part 6. I believe this one had to do with, we'll see. Yeah, this is the DeviantArt one where I was talking about the DeviantArt article. Pei writes, I used to be involved with DeviantArt, but it went downhill many years ago. And it doesn't surprise me at all that they would do this. So what happened was the DeviantArt website, for those of you who don't know, DeviantArt is only the largest indie artist community on the internet. And they showcase indie art on their platform. I don't do it myself. I just understand the fact of the matter. But basically what they did just recently, late last year, they introduced generative AI onto their platform and started offering a generative AI tool in their article. And they got quite a bit of backlash. It was a little bit, it was quite controversial. And if you guys aren't up to speed on that, you can just go ahead and watch this video right here, the Art and Artificial Intelligence part 6 of that conversation. Get you all up to speed on that. It says, I'll have to go back and watch all the videos you did on this. I was going to be on another channel to talk about it, so I will mention this. We are on the same side when it comes to this subject. Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I'd like that. The word of mouth, man. Word of mouth is a big deal, I have to say, just as far as that goes. Because I don't know if you guys recall or know anything about it, but the Twitter files. You heard about the Twitter files? Well, apparently with the Twitter files, who's coming in hot right now? Someone's coming in hot. Rainer, what's going on, bro? Yeah, the Twitter files apparently are some of our suspicions about shadow banning. The whole shadow banning thing actually turned out to be true as far as that goes. So, you can't rely just on the social media. That is a proven fact now, that what I am doing with this, with this live stream, with this channel, and what other people are doing within the creative sphere as far as this goes, word of mouth is more important than ever before. I mean, you cannot rely on the social media. For all we know, we could just be screaming into the void each and every single time we make a social media post. It's already, I remember way back, if you guys remember, there was that little bit of controversy with Facebook when they first rolled out. Because for you youngins out there, I remember a time when Facebook, you could do a post on Facebook and it was literally sent to everybody who either liked your page or were your friend in your friend group. So in other words, if you had 100 friends and you did a post, 100 people would see that post in their feed. Now, that's not the case. And there was this whole stink about it too, because coincidentally, Facebook also rolled out the whole boost your post thing. So it's like you spend real money and you boost your posts. We laughed about it back in the day. Like, this is bullshit. Are you kidding me? Who's gonna reach into their pocket and boost a post when you guys are artificially creating you guys are artificially stonewalling us? Like, you know what I mean? So apparently our suspicions are true. So yes, I went off on a tangent there, but word of mouth, more important than ever before, which is why I continue to do what I'm doing here. Herman's in the house. Hot like a meteor coming in hot, baby. All right, let's go. Let's get back to it, huh? Maybe we have to get you on here sometime, Pay. All you guys. Herman. Speaking of the devil. Of course, I use that term loosely. I don't actually mean it that way. Is Trad Pub obsolete? Is where he left his comment. It was part 4. Let's see where this one. Oh yeah, part 4. This is the most recent one where I was getting into the article about the strike going down at HarperCollins. For those of you who don't know, FYI, be on the lookout for an update on that one, because I believe it should be within the next week or so, we're going to be hearing some more news in regard to the HarperCollins strike, because it's supposed to be coming to an end shortly here, or there's going to be coming to an end in terms of contract negotiations. So I will be keeping an eye out for that one, and best believe I will do an update as the article, as the news comes out. So Herman says, you're essentially saying the same thing I've been saying. I can't say I feel sorry for these people. The ones complaining about how they're being treated are the same people who would throw my manuscript in the trash can, just out of spite. Well, I can't say yay or nay as far as that goes, but however, in the article, I don't know if you're insinuating, but in the article, the second article of that story, they were actually going into a little bit about how diversity played a role in them going on strike. So talking about trying to get a forcibly, almost, or maybe not necessarily forcibly, but more, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, like prejudice, if you will. Yeah, I think that's kind of like where the point that you're getting at there. Oh, a white man wrote this? Trash. Because if you read a story by one white man, you've read them all. Am I right? The hypocrisy of some of these people. It blows my mind. We're so inclusive. We're inclusive. We're tolerant. Meanwhile, what they do, if you pay attention to what some of these people do, they write out a list. They work their asses off to create a big, long list. See, we're inclusive of these people, of this demographic, of this sex, of the L people, the B people, the G people, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G people. Okay? So basically, they create this big, long list of people that they are inclusive, okay? But really what they should just do to save themselves and everybody else's time is just say, look, everybody's allowed except white men, okay? I mean, let's be quite frank with it. I mean, that's basically, at the end of the day, that's what some of these people are all about. I mean, and they just don't want to say it that way, because obviously it would make them look bad. But I mean, you're not fooling me and a lot of other people as well. So there's that. All right. Let's keep it rolling. Prejudice, I believe, is the word. This one comes from Lover, Fighter, Writer. I like that. I like that handle. And this comes from another hot topic. The hot topics were hot this week, I have to say. Is Trad Pub obsolete? This one's part 1, the pitch. And this was quite a lengthy one. Let's get into it. So Lover, Fighter, Writer writes, a great topic. both because it's timely and because I didn't realize I was thinking about it. I don't think trad pub is obsolete in the sense that it can't work, but I do think it's outdated and, in most cases, provides fewer benefits to the author. Goes on to write, my understanding of trad pub right now is that a few companies hold most of the market share, and it may be more exclusive than ever. Not in the sense that only certain people will get published, though that may also be true, as Herman and myself were just alluding to, but that very few authors have the chance of significant success. Yes, let me just say something on that. That was a big deal. That there was some stats were going around where it was like the percentage of authors that make, what was it? Basically, the percentage of traditionally published authors that actually earn out on their advance are very, very small, minuscule amount of traditionally published authors actually earn out on their advance. So one thing that I actually learned, I guess it does, there are deals where like maybe you could have to pay your advance back, but I've actually learned through the grapevine that that's actually uncommon. What is actually more common in the traditional publishing world is that you'll get paid in advance for your book or books, your book deal. And then what will happen is you have to earn out on the advance. So say you get an advance of like 50K, you won't be paid any royalties on your book. You will be paid 0 royalties on your book until you have earned out on that advance. So basically, you've earned back the 50K. So then once you've earned back the 50K from the advance, then you'll start earning some royalties off of your book. And I guess very, very few authors do that. And if you, and look, and in defense of indie publishers, I think that's very generous on their part. And that's probably why, like I said before, a lot of people try to aim for to be traditionally published because of that nice, that nice little payday there. Because you could get, depending on, because you got social media involved as well. I feel like I should be doing a hot topic right now. Maybe I'll save all this for later, but yeah, depending on your type of following and stuff, I could see how people could nail themselves like a nice hefty 6-figure book deal right out the gates, depending on your level of influence. All right, let's see here. All right, right at the end, right down at the bottom here, goes on to say self-pub, on the other hand, offers variable levels of success for all types of authors. Amazon Kindle does have a massive market share, but there are a number of good alternatives and many ways to promote books. Ultimately, TradPub is rigid and exclusive, and SelfPub is flexible and accessible. So while TradPub is great for a small percentage of authors, SelfPub will be better for the majority. I couldn't have said it any better myself, sir. Thanks for the comment. And you have actually inspired further discussion. I'll have to bring that back. What is this? So Rainer in the chat. So Rainer says the Twitter files are only news to those who are not paying attention. Yeah, it is a pretty big deal. And I really don't know. I mean, if you're pretty much on any social media, probably even hear about it. you know, the news, the mainstream news is not talking about it. I guess that's a part of the controversy, is the fact that all the legacy media sites are kind of being tight-lipped about it. So I've heard. Actually, to be honest with you, I really pay very little attention to legacy media these days. Especially after the whole debacle, not 2019, 2020 debacle, I'm like, fucking get the hell. Fake news. No, in all seriousness, anything that comes out of the mainstream, you got to take with a grain of salt, people, at the end of the day. At least I do. Was this? Herman says, I'll leave a tweet from a well-known author in your Discord. Are you doing that right now? I could pull it up right now. Did you do it right now? What is it? Inquiring minds want to know. Now I want to know. Oh, okay, it's in the tavern chat. Hold on. Let me peep this real quick. This is tavern talk right now. Live on the fly. This just in, ladies and gentlemen. So this is from Joyce Carol Oates. Who is she the author of? A friend who is a literary agent told me that he cannot even get editors to read first novels by young white male writers. Ooh, spicy. No matter how good, they are just not interested. This is heartbreaking for writers who may, in fact, be brilliant and critical of their own quote unquote privilege. You know what? I'm gonna bookmark that. We're gonna have to come back. That's a good one, Herman. That's a heavy hitter right there. I'm gonna have to come back and kind of do more of a formal discussion around that comment and and talk about that. You know what, that maybe I could use that one instead of the trad pub. I'll use that for representation. Yeah, I think that would be a good one for representation in fiction, for sure. All right. Let's move right along. Let's get into some other announcements here. Closing in on the first hour. You guys still didn't answer my question. How was your New Year's? Did you guys do anything fancy on New Year's? I didn't do too much. Normally I would go out, but like I said it before, I just haven't felt compelled to like go out and drink at bars or anything like that. It's like afraid, like I just don't want to like go there and it's just a bunch of people wearing their freaking masks and stuff. And it's like, ugh, you know what I mean? It's not my bag, man. It's not my bag, I have to say. I remember when drinking socially was fun. Maybe it's coming back. I don't know. So earlier this week, I did post. I do have a new editorial up on the website. Let me put the banner up. I didn't do a banner, but I do have this. Yes, from my indie breakdown series, I wrote a new editorial, and this is independent book, independent author, and this is The Heart of Glass by Craig Walwork. So that's the new mystery pack. If you head over to my shorts tab, like I said before, that's where I post just books my shorts tab is just all the mystery packs. And in each pack, like I said before, you'll see a cover card, and that's what it looks like when you open a mystery pack. Now, one thing I will note is that if you want to access the editorial that I wrote on this work, you actually have to, depending on where you see the video. Like, I know that it's different depending on where you see it. So if you see it and it's just like a regular, like if you click on it in the playlist, what will happen is it'll open up like a regular video, and then you can just look in the description section of the video and you can easily find the link. However, one thing I noticed with shorts, when you're watching actual like shorts on YouTube, they make it very difficult for you to access the description section. Like, if you're not paying attention, you won't know where to find it. So there's a little ellipsis like in next to the video or somewhere on the video, depending if you're watching it on your mobile or if you're watching it on a desktop. It could either be next to the video or it could be like overlaid on the video. There should be a little ellipsis. You can tap that or click on that, and then you should be able to look at the description. In the description, you'll find the link to the editorial. So I just want to make sure, as I continue to roll out, I'm going to try to make a concerted effort to do write more of these editorials in 2023. Make sure that whenever I do release an editorial, I am talking about it on the live stream for you guys. Okay, literary author. All right. Nothing fancy. Kick back, relax at home. Did you have a glass of rum? All right, let's get into what else we have here. We have a couple other announcements to make. We have some book deals. I do coming out strong for 2023 with the book deals. Or starting off strong, I should say. So this first one is a New Year's bundle from PD Workman. Let's check out this book deal here. So it says, she says, start the new year with a bang. Get your copy of the New Year bundle from PD Workman. I do have the link. We could actually check that out and just see what's involved in this deal she speaks of here. This is going to be coming directly from her website. So I'll kind of give her website a little shout out that way as well. Oops. Okay, let's check this out. This is the New Year's bundle here. How's that look? Yeah, that's a little bit better. Let's go full. All right, so new year, new beginnings, people. So this is a 6-book deal right now for $9.99. Very good. Great deal. What can you say? New Year's Day is an ideal time to reflect on fresh starts. Whether you're into resolutions or goal setting, why not explore a character's journey of starting over in a new book or series? What would it be like to wipe the slate clean and embark on a new life? Fortunately, you don't have to take the plunge yourself. Simply pick this bundle of ebooks featuring characters embarking on a new adventure, from cozy mysteries to coming-of-age young adult literature. Here is a bundle of books, each featuring a character who leaves behind her old life to start on something new. So we got a little bit of a theme here on this deal. I think this is the first book deal that has incorporates a theme or based on a theme. This bundle includes individual ebook files for each of She Wore Mourning, What the Cat Knew, Gluten-Free Murder. I like that cover title. Out with the Sunset, Tattooed Teardrops, and Questing for a Dream. Start 2023 outright with a stack of new reading material. All right, thanks for sharing that deal with us. And one more deal for you today. This is a limited time offer from Edmund Stone, a name that I am familiar with. He says he writes to me on Twitter. He says the whole book series is under $3 for a limited time. If anybody got a new Kindle for Christmas, here's your deal. Thanks, Jonathan, for the lift. Oh, thank you for sharing. So this is his Rebecca Mythos series. Let me take a quick look at that. Now, just a little bit about Edmund Stone. I do know that he is into horror, so it touches upon the horror, but leans more towards like the occult and supernatural aspects. So maybe a little bit of horror there, but perhaps more supernatural. So there's kind of the book cover. So 3 books for under $3, people. We got a 6 for $9.99 and 3 for under $3. So the 369 deal, people. All right. And those are the deals. So like I say, the Discord, if you guys want to get in on the Discord, spread the word. I know I'm not going to keep this short and brief for you guys who are watching. You already know about the Discord. You're on the Discord. But if you want to spread the word and anybody else who wants to get in on the Discord, just a quick thing about it. Like I say, I'll keep it pretty brief. It's not something that I started because, I'm trying to turn it into a big, huge social affair, and I'm expecting you guys to play roles and do all this and that. And I got a big, long scroll list, an ancient scroll list of rules that you have to abide by, and you have to level up to level 5 before you can do anything on the damn server. No. The link is in the description down below. You click the frickin' link, you get an invite to the server, bada boom, bada bing, you're in business, baby. The point of the server is because I want you guys to have a place where you can just network freely. Every member that joins the Discord should understand. I'm just going to assume that you are an adult. Okay, well, it's meant for adults. I don't know how Discord works as far as all that goes, but I'm just going to assume that you have agency and you can figure out who you want to talk to, who you don't want to talk to. But the point of the server itself is for sharing your links and networking, first and foremost. If you want to chit chat, if you want to get to know each other in there, hey, more power to you. I mean, that's great as well. But for me, eventually, I would like to kind of get away from doing too much social media. I would actually preferably like to do less public posting on social media, and kind of move a lot of what I do, filter a lot of what I do from the Discord server. In other words, you guys sharing links with me. And as you can see from the list, I give you quite a bit of leeway of the types of projects and things that you can share with me. And then I can then in turn, what that does is it gives me permission. I consider that when you guys share your links with me, That's me receiving permission. Instead of me going through person by person and saying, could I have your permission to do this? Oh, this sounds cool. Could I have permission to do this and talk about this and do that? It just wouldn't be a good use of my time. So that's why I start these things. So people can come to me and they say, hey, this is an easy thing. Takes 2 seconds. I join this thing. I share some links with this guy, and then this guy is going to talk about it during his live stream. You see what I'm saying? This is why I do these things. So there's that. Let's go into, we got the Storyteller Society. Yes, I am going to say a little bit of later on this week in my 2022 Live Free, Live Rich recap video that I'll drop later this week. I will be talking a little bit about this and giving a shout out to those of you who participated. But I am saying, as of right now, I will be continuing the Storyteller Society into 2023. That's right. So for those of you creative writers out there, aspiring authors even, or even if you're a published author and you would just like to expand your creative portfolio, and this is an opportunity for you guys to collaborate with another artist within the sphere, within the underground scene, yours truly. Okay, and we can kind of build a little peer-to-peer relationship in that way. The Storyteller Society is an opportunity that I started, that I pitched to creators in early 2022 as kind of like part of my Live Free, Live Rich network outreach program, and where I'm trying to collaborate with other writers and kind of build a little peer-to-peer relationship, if you will. What we're looking for is flash fiction, okay? Piece of cake, right? Flash fiction. And the requirements are, it has to be a fictional story. You own the copyright, and it can be anywhere from between 500 words to 2,000 words. And it can be any genre, okay? Any genre that you want. It can even be literary fiction if you want. It just has to be a story, and you have to own the copyright. And I suppose even vignettes would be okay as well. But really looking for flash fiction, so like a complete story, and yeah, it's a non-exclusive deal. Okay, so this could be stuff that you have published previously, so long as you have the right to give me license to republish it. Is all I'm asking. Completely voluntary. It's all voluntary, people. And it will remain. If your work is approved and accepted, then you will book yourself a room at the Hotel del SS, what I have dubbed, and that's where your contributions will stay there indefinitely for public viewing, absolutely free of charge. Okay, so you can kind of build up a little writer credibility in that way. All right, let's get into some reading time. We're going to do reading time. No video this week. Like I say, I'm going to wrap up the stream after I'm done reading this here. We're going to wrap up the stream with a special presentation in regard to the Monday night live stream, a recap of the year 2022. But before we do that, I do have an article to read, which could be interesting. From Twitter, just shares the link. This is the editor of this blog, Mac S. McGregor. And the title of this article, this is a third-party writer guest article, or it's a guest blog. So he says, when traditional norms become toxic. So quite a lengthy one. This is when traditional norms become toxic. This is an article written by Dominique Lewis, comes courtesy of the editor at the Positive Masculinity blog via www.positivemasculinitynow.org. This could be interesting. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two. I like how it says it's, well, let me show you this. I like how the website is positive masculinity, but it's all pink. What's the deal with that, man? Come on. Are you trolling me right now? So here's Dominique Lewis. This is her article that she wrote. So I'm going to try not to be too harsh as far as this goes. It's my first read through on this. I'm going to try not to be too harsh or too critical, seeing as how Dominique is not the one who suggested that I read this. Like I say before, it's actually coming courtesy of the editor of the blog. So we'll see. Positive. Let me see. We look good. All right. So positive masculinity contributor, Dominique Lewis. She's a content writer for positive masculinity, technical writer in the medical device industry. Okay. Here we go. It is often common to confuse traditional masculinity for toxic masculinity, although there are distinct differences that can lead to the root cause of one or the other. When traditional is compared or contrasted with toxic, it's important to identify whether the traits are native to the ancestry of masculine individuals or something that's become more harmful. In a society where unhealthy traditional masculinity, in a society, maybe that's in a society that's unhealthy. In a society that's unhealthy, traditional masculinity is normalized. In a society where unhealthy traditional masculinity is normalized, the population suffers as a result of the destructive traits that began as traditional norms. Afraid you'll have to clarify that. The psychological damage of learned traditional traits points to the evidence that masculine individuals suffer as a result of escalated traditional traits that became toxic. The differences between traditional and toxic masculinity will become more evident as they are explored in this piece. All right, let's get to it. Traditional masculinity. Traditional masculinity demonstrates generational traits of masculine leadership, a breadwinner mentality, cha-ching, and maintaining a stoic demeanor. Don't necessarily have anything negative to say about that. I mean, I think you're pretty much on point as far as that goes. These traits mostly follow in the footsteps of ancestral masculine authorities. Key word right there. Remember that one. Masculine authorities. Keyword authority. That can be familial or otherwise influential in their male's childhood. For those who grew up with their father, that influential role could be their father as well as an uncle or a brother. In the absence of familial male influences, some traditional male traits could pass on from masculine coaches, leaders, or friends. As a result, there are common themes attached to traditional masculinity that have influenced the past generations and those to come. In the book Positive Masculinity Now, McGregor mentions that McGregor, the editor of this blog. In the book Positive Masculinity Now, McGregor mentions traditional masculinity is more old-fashioned thinking about gender roles. Uh-oh. We might disagree on that one, bub. He emphasizes how the label masculine in a traditional society appears as specific jobs around the house are more for one gender. I don't know why, but Alice's kitchen sink poem just comes to mind all of a sudden. This connects to the breadwinner mentality that traditional masculinity entails. If masculine roles traditionally surround the job of provider for the family, then most non-breadwinning tasks are geared toward the non-masculine without reasoning. While attempting to be the masculine leader due to traditional expectations, a masculine individual can downplay or demean their non-masculine counterparts as well as overwhelm themselves with mental, physical, and societal pressures to appear successful. Interesting. These traditional pressures could also overwhelm masculine individuals and make them undervalue themselves outside of their breadwinning role. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that, especially more so nowadays that women are capable of making just as much money, if not more, so than men. As of right now, I mean, they like to say the wage gap is one of those things. The wage gap has been a disproven has basically been disproven for decades now, but for whatever reason, that type of rhetoric still continues to pop up every now and then. Basically, anytime there's like a feminist rally or something like that on Washington, the pink hat parades or something like that. It's the same old talking points. As you get older, I'm not saying that I'm not that old, but I'm saying like it's just one of those things. Like I'm old enough to see the patterns and a lot of you begin to see the same talking points come back over and over and over again. And it seems like it just never really gets through to people. It's like you begin to realize like people don't give a shit about facts as much as they just like to have something to rabble rouse about. So they don't take the time to look into it themselves and be like, oh, okay, this has been disproven for decades now. No, they just latch onto it because it's something to bitch about. Most male layoffs cause the masculine to feel self-doubt and hopelessness due to the burden of being the main or sole provider in the household. In both cases, the leadership role and breadwinner mentality are traditions that are played out, causing the masculine and non-masculine to suffer. Why do you keep saying non-masculine? Are you saying effeminate? Do you mean effeminate males, or are you just referring to women? I would actually argue that some women today are actually more masculine than some of the men out and about today. Another aspect of traditional masculinity is keeping a stoic and stable demeanor. I mean, kind of a stereotype. The stereotypes work both ways. I mean, some people see this as, a positive trait. I'm back and forth with it. I think that a certain maintaining a level of composure is definitely something that is typically known for being a masculine trait. Being able to, in other words, being able to keep yourself composed when under pressure and things of that nature. Yeah, I do agree. Having courage in the face of adversity and this type of thing, all survival kind of goes back to like survival instincts, really. Whereas women and the more effeminate are kind of known for being more emotional. I'll just say more outward with their emotions. It's demonstrated when masculine individuals don't seek assistance as needed. This can be learned. This can be a learned traditional trait from one's ancestors, and we see that a lack of communication does help improve the situation. In most cases, masculine individuals suffer silently with mental illness, substance abuse, and other psychological concerns due to repressing their emotions and keeping a stoic demeanor. Now, that's one thing I'll have to disagree with you on, because it's not for lack of speaking up. Men do speak up. That's not the same time, especially nowadays. I don't know if you know of Reddit threads, the whole red pill community online. That's all these different men's groups and stuff like that. There are plenty of men speaking up in this day and age and talking about their experiences and stuff like that. So it's not for a lack of speaking up. It's really just a lack of people giving a shit at the end of the day. I mean, and most of that I blame on legacy media. I was just talking about that earlier. In the mainstream media, they don't want to talk about these things. If it's a woman, then yes, it's a big deal. But if it's a man, it's just a statistic. I mean, for the most part, and slowly but surely, I feel like that's the tide is starting to turn on that, in terms of men no longer, because of these stereotypical, traditional expectations, not roles. These were expectations of men placed upon them largely by not just men, but women as well. So it's not just men doing it to themselves, it's women as well play a role in the whole thing. So it's not that men are victims, it's just that men have had it ingrained in their head that this is what is expected of them. It's you, it's not you. There's a saying that goes a little something like this: women are human beings, men are human doings. What I mean by that is a man is not enough. You know how you always see these like social media posts where like women are always like, you're enough, girl. You are enough. And that's great. They have this positivity message and stuff like that, and they boost themselves up, the female empowerment, and you go, girl. And women are I will say this about women, they are very good about that. They definitely have a good, healthy, like an in-group preference, it's called, as far as that goes, where women are very supportive of each other, whereas men are more competitive with one another. And that's another one of these masculine type of stereotypes where it's like it's ingrained in us based on survival instincts that we must compete. We're always in competition mode, competitive mode, fighting for survival, if you will. And that's just, intrinsically kind of what it's like to be a man, really. I mean, at least a man amongst men, as far as that goes. You have that always kind of on the back of your mind. And it doesn't help when women, women have been empowered and we're all equal and this and that. But then when women get into the workforce and they start like doing businesses and stuff like that, it's like, I see what I typically see, and I might get flack for this, but I got to keep it real. This is what I typically see. Now, of course, there are exceptions here. I'm not saying all, but what I typically see is that women who get into business and this and that, two things I notice. One, they are largely supported by men. In other words, what I mean by that is not to take away from a woman who is a successful businesswoman. She's a girl boss, if you will. Okay, she's an entrepreneur. Not to take away from her success in business, prowess, if you will. But what I do notice is that there's like this ingrained thing with men to just want to take care of women, or help women, or support a woman. So it's only natural that women are largely, whenever they start an online business, they have a lot of male support. Now, what I also notice is that they also get female support as well. You go, girl, you're a queen, you're a boss. Now, on the flip side, when men have businesses and this and that, it's very rare to see that there are an abundance of women showing up and showing out to show their support for a man who is doing his own thing. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. It's just very rare. I don't see a lot of that. And I can only speak from my own experience. And again, like I say, there's always exceptions to the rule. But it's just something that I've noticed. And I think that we can get past a lot of this. I think we can get past a lot of this type of sexism rhetoric and this and that if we can stop. One thing I would say is if we could stop blending the lines, if we could stop, blending the lines between personal and professional and like keeping it professional online. Have your business, if you could have your business page and then you have your personal page. It's like this thing. I see this thing now with some entrepreneurs online. They try to like blend the personal and the professional. I don't know. It's kind of a tightrope. I think that once you start doing that, you know what I mean? And I feel like it kind of muddies the waters, and it definitely complicates things, and it makes it difficult, especially for men to work with women and women to work with men, because inherently there's always that tension there. In some shape, fashion, or form. Not necessarily talking about like sexual tension, but I just mean in the form of like a man doesn't want to be perceived as like a pervert or a creeper or something like that, when in all actuality, and I've seen it before on Twitter, of all places, go figure, quite a bit, where women will misconstrue things. They're very quick. They can be very quick to misconstrue things and blow things up into a big ordeal when they were just reading into it all wrong. And then who gets hung out to dry? The men. I've seen women do that, and that's bullshit. And that's toxic femininity when they do that. And they hang men out to dry and they make an example of a man. Oh, look at this man who was in my DMs. And it's just a guy like just being kind to her. And she's calling him a creeper. It's like, get the hell out of here. Come on. And if that makes me toxic, then so be it. How traditional turns toxic. What do you say? Oh, DA's dropping by. What's going on? What's going on, DA? DA chimes in. Weird. I always hear women are more competitive with each other than men. Maybe competitive for male attention, as far as that goes. I can see that much. But no, I don't know. I just think on average, I think that women do a better job. I will admit that women do a better job as being supportive of one another than men are. However, I do think that the tides are starting to turn as far as that goes. Like I say, there's such things as the red pill community and all these things. Of course, there are toxic aspects of those type of communities as well. But I think for the most part, it is a decent place for men who have absolutely nobody. And I'll tell you, in psychology, the whole thing, the field of psychology and sitting down with a quote unquote professional when really it's just a fucking college grad and they got their psychology major because they're too lazy to fucking go into the STEM field. So they got a degree in psychology. And more often than not, it's going to be a woman and a man. It doesn't work. Men don't operate that way. You know what I mean? Like a lot of men just aren't going to be able to just sit down and just like, want to talk about your feelings? Like, that's just not how men process shit the vast majority of the time. I can only speak for myself. I'm saying that's never how I did. If anything, if I ever, like back in the day, like when I was like in gaming and shit, and if I was, wanting to just hang out with the boys, hanging out with the boys is a big deal. I used to do poker nights. So if you're hanging out with the boys, you go online and you're hanging out with the boys and you can just, cuss and have a good time and talk shit and stuff like that. That does wonders for a man. I'll say that much. Sitting down, hashing out your feelings and shit. What are you painting each other's nails? Come on. Give me a break. Men, that's not manly activities. You know, you want to talk about stereotypes? That's one that I'm like, yeah. I mean, they keep trying to push this shit, is what I'm saying. It's making men more and more effeminate, is what I'm saying. It's not a man thing. If you want to have stoic men, if you want to have men that act like men and they're tough and they can handle shit, well, then you can't be pushing this effeminate friggin' narrative. That's not how it works, you know. But it's going to require men to be around other men, you know, in that regard. Let's talk about. Let me get in this. Jeez and crow, get me all hyped up on this topic now. Getting hot. Toxic masculinity exaggerates traditional traits and displays them very often, at times, as aggressively dominant behaviors and repressed emotions. So, like the alpha male, I understand that much. Alpha male, gym bros. I actually don't have anything against gym bros. I think going to the gym is a positive thing. But the alpha mentality thing, like the get your protein drink, get your protein drinks and become an alpha male today. The shilling, I think that's just a thing to do the shilling. I'm very familiar with all those types of groups as well. And like the pickup artistry groups and stuff like that. Yeah, I would say that those are toxic. That's bullshit. All that stuff is just to turn you into a scumbag, turn you into a degenerate, basically turn you into an asshole. And yeah, I would agree that would be an example of not toxic masculinity, just toxic personality in general. I mean, can we stop adding the additional label? Just call whatever behavior is toxic. Don't call it toxic masculinity, as if that does not include women. Like, in other words, whatever you label as toxic masculinity, that implies that only men are capable of these toxic behaviors. You know, and that's just not the case. Like I said before, nowadays I see more and more women behaving in a toxic masculine, carrying themselves with a toxic masculine demeanor than men, as far as that goes. You know, very dominant, want to be very dominant, and you know, be the girl boss. I mean, come on, it's right there in the word, girl boss. You be bossy. Get down and lick my boots. You know, if that was a man doing that, then it would be labeled toxic masculinity. But if it is a woman doing that, then it's you go girl, female empowerment. You see what I'm saying here? So that you got to drop the masculinity thing. Just say it's toxic, period. And whether you're a woman doing it or a man doing it, you just call it for what it is. You're being a freaking asshole and you're treating people like shit. DA chimes in. He says, let's remember alpha males is a wrong label placed on wolves. Wrong label placed on wolves. Wolves are a family unit. Remember the betas? Beta! Those are the providers. There's also a new phrase called Sigma males. I am familiar. I have heard of all these things. I used to watch a lot of red pill content. Way back, I probably started watching probably about like 2014, 2013, around then, 2013, 2014. Watched a lot of different content creators, heard a lot of different arguments, a lot of different points of view. So I am familiar with a lot of that rhetoric and the different labels and the groups that are floating around, the male groups that are floating around out there. So like I say, overall, it's not bad. We got to start somewhere, right? Because I do remember, like, in the 90s, before the internet and all that, there's no fucking male groups. If you were if you were a man, you could effectively have your name dragged through the fucking mud, and there wasn't a damn thing you could do about it. And there wasn't anyone you could talk to either. It was just like you had to just take it on the chin and just battle on. Like you just had to move on with your life and just keep it moving. There was no men's groups. There was no, even like the field of like psychology and stuff like that wasn't even that big back then. And it was a lot more stigmatized than it is today. Like it's actually a lot more open. It's actually a lot more acceptable for people, men specifically, to like seek out help professionally and stuff like that with their mental health. As far as that goes, than it was back in the day. Back in the day, you were seen as kind of a sissy for getting into those types of things, which I don't necessarily, I don't think that that's a good thing to perpetuate. I'm not saying that, you know, men should be belittled. I think men have been belittled enough as it is throughout the years, ever since the 60s and 70s, I believe, is when the whole, like, you know, the feminist movement and started really taking hold and stuff like that, and started becoming really abrasive with their rhetoric and their messaging. It's like one of those, it's one of those things where it's like, it sounds good on pen and paper, but what it turns into is ugly. It's like one of those movements where it's highly political, and the point of it is to blow out candles. I'm not a fan of anything that requires you to blow out someone's candle in order to make yours appear to shine brighter. I really am not. And that's really what feminism has become in a nutshell. It's like you have to browbeat men in order to prop yourself up. That's basically what feminism has become in this day and age. And I'm really not a fan of that. And I think it's kind of counterintuitive, counterproductive to what the original message behind the whole feminist movement was. Well, in the mainstream, what people thought it was about when it first started coming around. Of course, now we know it was all just a ruse. It was a political dipsy doodle, if you will. But I digress. All right, let's go on here. McGregor describes toxic masculinity as a narrow and repressive description of manhood, designating manhood as defined by violence, sex, status, and aggression. This is the limit at which boundaries are crossed, and the masculine use their leadership to harm others in various forms. Traits that are traditional or generational for the masculine, such as leadership, toxically become dominance of those in lesser roles or non-leadership positions. Well, I mean, you also have to take into account the word that you said earlier, which is authority. You know, there is something to be said. Let's see what he says here. The tradition of believing that masculine roles are leaders can become toxic if masculine roles portray masculine leadership roles in a demeaning manner and do not allow non-masculine individuals, you just say women, that's fine. They're like, for instance, their wives or girlfriends, their family members, what have you, individuals to be leaders in any task simply due to their gender. And that, I feel like that's kind of a dishonest statement. So really what I say is authority. So one thing that we were talking about, traditional masculinity was built upon being a breadwinner. Yes, it was largely built around economic power, like the male in the household being the breadwinner. I mean, most people know this. This is a no-brainer. So the male would be the breadwinner, which by being the breadwinner means he is the head of the household, head of household, at least in terms of how it is recognized by law in terms of the tax code, what have you. He is technically the head of household. Now, the head of household implies a role of leadership. So if he's the breadwinner, he's the head of household, then that also implies responsibility. The man of the house is responsible for caring for his family. He's the breadwinner. He's bringing home the bacon. He has people relying on him, in other words, to make that happen. So with that responsibility, with that power and that responsibility should come some authority. I mean, that's like simple math. That's like 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, if he's responsible, he's taking on that stress. He's going out there. He's the breadwinner. He's the one that is responsible for the well-being of the people in his home. Then he should have the authority of that home. In other words, he has final say. Now, where I feel like society has kind of gone wrong is now we've invited the big daddy government is now involved in most people's homes, and that's in some shape, fashion, or form, and it's perverting the whole structure. It's flipping it upside down and on its head. And the kids are in charge nowadays. Don't forget the wife or the husband. It's the kids that run the show nowadays, and it's all out of order. Don't even make me get started on that whole thing. Put me in a thrombo. DA says alpha males were placed on wolves who were found in places like zoos or a wolf preserve, who formed harems or alpha or beta hierarchies. People thought it meant wild wolves. Wild are a family unit. Interesting. A little fun fact there. The traditionally masculine idea that individuals must maintain emotional stability can be burdensome and can trigger them into emotional overload. This could manifest itself in multiple toxic instances, such as lashing out in aggression or shutting down in repression. Mishandling. How about not worrying about what men decide to do? How about that? How about maybe people just stop placing expectations upon men? Okay. If we're all equal, okay, then what we should be is in an age of individualism. Correct? Everyone earns their own keep. No freeloaders around here. No freeloaders, no expectations. Okay. But as we see nowadays, women have the right to go to work. I know this article is about men, but I'm just saying in contrast, for a little juxtaposition, if you will. Women have the right to go to work and pursue any career field they want, they desire. If they have a will, there's a way. The glass ceiling is a myth. The wage gap is a myth. So if women can do these things, okay, that's great. I don't want to take that away from women. I think women should have the right to be able to do those things. But then if they turn around and they want to continue to have traditional expectations, place these traditional expectations upon men, well, it's like, what the fuck, man? Why should men even date? What's the point? Why should men, if they're not going to be in a equal, I hate to use the term, but that's what people like to use nowadays, as if relationships are a business, but they call them partnerships now. they call marriage partnerships now, as if it's just a business arrangement. See, I feel like there's like this overload of capitalism nowadays that's kind of like tossed in the mix as well. That's kind of playing a role here. And it's like, I don't know. It's just muddy. It's just turned things very convoluted. So I don't know. I would just say, a lot of these things with, if you care about men, start treating them like human beings. Don't treat them like human doings. Don't go to a man and say, what have you done for me lately? And make him like he has to prove his worth, because women don't like that shit. I know that for a fact. Women don't like that when men place these expectations upon women and then women feel like they have to prove their worth. You see all the time where women are like, know your worth. They say know your worth because what they really mean to say is, this is what I expect from men. As far as when they were talking about dating aspects, dating prospects, I mean, they're not looking at it like, is the man a human being? No, it's what is the man bringing to the table? I don't know. Maybe something needs to change about that. Maybe we need to. Maybe if you're looking for a relationship, like an intimate relationship, maybe you need to stop worrying about what it is the other person's bringing to the table in terms of, just in terms of economic, in terms of like what their job is or this or that, and maybe actually just taking the time to actually start like looking at people as individuals and human beings. Like, what are you into? When we used to date, geez, when we used to date back in the day before social media and online dating apps, we actually would go through a period of time where you would go on dates, and it wasn't about hookups. It was just about courting, like courting in the sense of like getting to know someone. If you get to know someone and you have a good time, and maybe you go on multiple dates, and then you would be considered going steady. Going steady meaning you're on course for a long-term relationship, possibly marriage, which the next step would be engagement at that point. Technically, that's how we used to do it as a culture. You would go through a dating. The point of dating wasn't to have fun. The point of dating was to find a spouse. That was the point of dating. Dating wasn't just a recreational activity. Well, for some people, but I'm just saying, I'm old enough to know a time when there was still a purpose to dating. Like there was a point to dating. Like you date with the purpose. And it's not, it wasn't just like an activity that you do. There's plenty of activities you can do with other people, including the opposite gender, that, it doesn't have to be about dating or being romantic or anything. I'm like going off the rails here. Let's see. These repressed emotions prove to be detrimental to the mental health of all parties involved. So now I'm starting to get the blame it on men rhetoric here. It comes to blame it all on men rhetoric. These repressed emotions prove to be detrimental to the health of all parties involved. In some instances, the masculine becomes verbally abusive, a toxic behavior that may display itself by putting others down in order to feel superior. I think anyone is really capable of doing that. I don't think that's an exclusively masculine behavior. I think women are just as much capable of ad hominem as men are in that regard. A call to action. The issue of toxic masculinity remains disadvantageous while society suffers and longs for a resolution to end this cycle. There are various consequences of allowing traditional traits to acclimate and turn into dangerous toxic behaviors. Traditional traits taught for generations will only be passed down if we allow them to, and examining if these traits are beneficial or borderline toxic to our environment and family is necessary. Additionally, being accountable to a mentor, psychological professional, or positive masculine group can help steer our masculine population in a positive direction. Now you sound like friggin' like you want to run a fucking Gestapo. This guidance, I mean, we used to have Boy Scouts. That's positive, right? But then women wanted to get involved, get the girls in there, get the girls involved in the Boy Scouts. And now the Boy Scouts are no longer the Boy Scouts, it's just the Scouts. It's like, okay, if you want men to have positive masculine groups, then let them have their groups and stay the fuck out of them. It's that simple. You know what I'm saying? Don't get involved. Don't start saying, oh, it's a supremacist group or it's a terrorist group. These are incel groups. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to allow men to figure their shit out their own way. Sure, the groups won't be perfect, and there will be men who are like raging and stuff like that, but that's why there are other men there to check them. You know what I'm saying? Allow men to figure their shit out. They don't need women in their shit telling them how to run their shit. That's how you get the toxic masculinity, because the men become frustrated. Because, like, I don't think that women are very aware of like what it's like to be like in a space with a bunch of men and then a woman is tossed in the mix, and just how much influence a woman has on that entire group, like the way that her presence affects that entire group. So that's one thing I would say, back for advice. It's just, leave men alone, let them figure their shit out their own way. Don't tell them they need professional help. Don't tell them they have to have a mentor, because then that implies that they're an apprentice of some sort, or they're some novice. You know what I mean? And that can be belittling and in it and of its own right. It's one thing if men seek that shit out on their own. Men like doing things on their own. Men like figuring shit out on their own. Okay. Men aren't like, it's not like, that's how men and women are different in a lot of ways, is that women are a lot more sociable. They need the validation. Not to say that men don't need validation as well, but they just don't seek it in the same way that women do. Like, women very much like seek out validation. And they will, of course, have benefit of the doubt and say that they're not attention seeking, but it is very much what they do kind of on a subconscious level, that where men don't do that most of the time, just because they're so used to not getting it in terms of attention, as far as that goes. This guidance can help improve their quality of life, as well as important relationships with family and friends. As traditional masculine traits become toxic, so will our reaction to the issue if we do not look to improve the epidemic. Careful throwing those words around, of toxic masculinity. Dun, dun, dun. With acknowledgement, community, and change. Sound like you're ready to hand out some pamphlets? Well, thanks for sharing that article. It was quite thought-provoking. Definitely got me going. Turned up the heat, made me passionate. I like when someone can get me passionate, strike up passionate conversation, as far as that goes. All right, we're going to wrap this up now. I got one more little segment. It's going to be a special segment for tonight. As you guys notice, I've done some upgrades with the stream. I've gone pro with my live streaming. So now I'd like to take this time to take a look back at the Monday Night Live in 2022 and see everything that's happened this year. Just go over some of the accomplishments. This was the first year. This twofold. So this, just to preface this segment, I want to say that this was actually my first year hosting live streams. Never done this before. There was a point in time briefly back in the day in like like 2011, 2012, 2013, around that era, when I was thinking about doing live streams, but on different types of very much different, more business oriented subject matter. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that I waited. And so this past year was actually my first time doing live streams in any kind of regular format whatsoever. So it's definitely been a huge learning curve for me, and I'm glad to have seen that some of you have found value in what it is that I'm doing here, and kind of hopped on board. And you guys have made me realize that this is something that is important. This is something that is significant, and I am right now making the announcement that I will be continuing this in 2023, as I have already alluded to by saying that I'm going pro here. So I will be continuing the live streams into 2023. Now, before we get into what we're going to do for 2023, let's take a look back and see all that has been accomplished with the live stream in 2022. So first and foremost, let's go down the list. Here's just a snapshot of what has happened during the live stream in 2022. 40 shows were produced. We produced 40 shows, believe it or not. Started a little bit later in the year. It is going to be, as far as the Monday night live stream goes, we will have the full calendar year for 2023 scheduled. I don't plan on taking any Mondays off as of right now. So just to let you guys know, I am dedicated to making sure that I am here for you guys each and every single week at the same time. What else do we do? We used the live stream to kind of spotlight and discover some Booktube and Authortube channels. That's right. Giving some shout outs. This is something that I would like to do more of in the future. Maybe start a whole new segment just dedicated to just that. We had some featured videos on here. So from those Booktube and Authortube channels, if you guys recall, I engaged in some Booktube tag videos. So those were fun. And I think it's just another way of being able to kind of collaborate and get to know some other creators. And as well as, it's not just something for providing content for the show, but also something fun to do. We covered some crowdfunding campaigns. So all comic books, they were Indiegogo crowdfunding campaigns for some comic books. And mind you, each and every single one of those campaigns that I covered did fulfill their goals. Not saying that I played a huge role in making that happen, but nevertheless, I'm just stating it as a matter of fact. So I did share several special book deals with you guys, including free. Those of you who like to get free books. And now, mind you, this is a show that revolves around independent publishing. So this is a kind of if anything, a little bit of a way to attract people to the show and say, hey, you want to find a way to discover what's out in the independent market, a fun way to do that. And you might even get some special deals, become aware of some special deals out there. And this is a way that you can do so. And then, of course, I launched the Discord server. Yes, you guys know all about that already. Don't need to say anymore. Moving right along. So here are the fun stats. More than 36 writers had their work read live on the air. That's right. And I would like to do more live reading. So for those of you out there, if you run your own blog, specifically if you run your own blog, this is a good opportunity to get your blog a plug. So you can share some writing with me. It could be flash fiction. It could be poetry. It could be an article, essay, or even a review that you wrote, or like an editorial you wrote on somebody else's work. I could read that as well. So yeah. And also, I would also like to note here that any of you, if you've ever had your work featured on the show, I do keep all the live streams up on the channel. So you can go ahead, and you have my permission to go ahead, download the stream if you want, and you can actually edit the stream however you please. If you want to clip out, like say there's a segment where your work is featured during the show, like if I do a live reading, or if you want to clip out the part where I'm talking about your book or something like that, you can do so. You have my permission. And if you want to drop me, a shout out, whether by name or you want to link my website, that would be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, the biggest number and what I am most proud of, and kind of one of the reasons, one of the main driving forces behind the Monday night live stream is over 140 plus independently published books were mentioned during the show. Now, this isn't necessarily over 140 unique independent authors, because I have had several contributions from the same author on more than one occasion, but still over 140 plus independently published books mentioned on the show. That's huge. And I'd like to I would like to make even more. And this isn't just a one and done. This isn't just a little like, oh, by the way, this book came out and that's it. Like, no, these are 140 plus books that were given the time of day. And I'm talking like a good, anywhere from between 5 to 10 minutes per title, reading the blurb, showing off the book cover, maybe saying a few words about it, getting the first impressions. This is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from straight up just saying, buy their book, but really it's just about raising awareness. So for me, it's always a pleasure to see what I get from the publishers, because I never know what I'm going to get from the indie scene. Now let's talk about, last but not least, Monday Night Live for 2023. I am making some upgrades around here. You guys may see some new layouts as far as the visuals go. Maybe I'll try to spice it up a little bit for you guys, make it a little bit more visually pleasing. But what I would like to do in terms of goals is I would like to get more guests on the show, or visitors. Like we had RB Worley stop by today. He have people just kind of stop by the show like he did, or do dedicated guests that come onto the show and kind of co-host a show with me, because this is the Hangout stream after all. I want to continue to come up with, maybe some new segments, different ways of using this platform to kind of have creative collaboration with other writers, authors, creators, and content creators out there. And last but not least, special events. I put maybe I will do special events. This could entail giveaways, stuff like that, swag, maybe art contests. Now that's going to depend on you guys, really. There needs to be more. The reason why I say maybe is because in order for me to do special events, I need more engagement. There needs to be more people, not just the numbers wise. I just mean participation wise, real people showing up, showing they care, and wanting to be a part of this thing and help, make and turn it into a thing. I should put it that way. And then at which point, then it will be more interesting that way. You know what I mean? When I put on a special event, and it's more than just maybe 2 or 3 people, entering into the special event, it could actually turn it into a fun competition of sorts, So that's it for me this week, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope y'all, like I always say, I hope y'all discovered something new. I hope y'all had some fun. And guess what? I will be back here for you next week. Same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.